Hello, and welcome to the Racial Equity Webinar Series. I am Adilene Robinson, Member Relations and Administrative Coordinator at USBC, and I am so glad to have you join us for this session. My co-moderator for this webinar is Miriam Rodriguez, Coalitions Relations Coordinator. Next slide, please. The United States Breastfeeding Committee hosts this series of bi-monthly webinars as part of its efforts to create and model a culture of inclusion, diversity, and equity. With funding support from the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, this series focuses on building the capacity of the breastfeeding field to apply both an equity lens to inform and guide our external strategies and activities, but also an equity mirror to examine our internal structures, culture, and policies. Webinars are held every 2 months in a number of months on the fourth Tuesday of the month from 2 to 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Access to these webinars is free and open to all Breastfeeding Coalition leaders, members, breastfeeding advocates, and to anyone involved in forming or leading nonprofit organizations in the breastfeeding field. As you know, we've streamlined access to this series, so you only need to register once to have access to all future sessions. Once you register, you'll receive reminders from the GoToWebinar system with your unique link to each session. Next one, please. I hope you are a member of the Racial Equity Online Learning Community, which is one of more than 20 online learning communities that the USBC website houses. This community discusses issues related to structural and institutional racism within the reproductive health and justice health fields, and also gives a space for people to share resources and ideas. They are open to all site users. Please explore them and join the communities of your greatest interest to learn, connect, and act with us. Next one, please. Slides and handouts for today's sessions can be found on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion webpage. We understand that not everyone can make it to our live sessions, so we do record all of our webinars. You'll be able to find a recording of today's session in the Racial Equity webpage, along with other archive sessions. Next slide, please. And that brings me to today's topic, Reclamation of Pueblo Traditions and Breastfeeding. Native American Heritage Month in November recognizes a history's rich diversity and continuing invaluable contributions of American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian people in the United States, and focuses on how heritage intersects with health. During this webinar, the vital work of Indigenous Women Rising, Breastfeeding, and Birth Justice Project will be highlighted. Our speaker, Malia Luarqui, will share a story of reclaiming tradition and breastfeeding and describe the journey of hacking her traditional Pueblo regalia, making them breastfeeding friendly. This initiative won the Healthy Communities Award from the W.K. Kellogg Foundation at MIT Media Lab's Make the Breast Pump Not Hug Hackathon in April 2019. Next one, please. Malia Luarqui is the co-founder of Breastfeeding and Birth Justice and proud daughter of Carrie Ray and Richard Luarqui, and she is an organizer for Indigenous Women Rising. She is a woman who has always had an interest in contributing to society in positive ways. She has always sought ways to connect with community movements and organizing. Malia cares deeply about Indigenous communities and wants to make a positive impact in the lives of others. It's so great to have her with us this afternoon, and with that, I'll turn it over to Malia.
Hi, thank you guys for having me today. I hope everyone is well. Okay, so just jumping right in, let's see. So yes, the reclamation of Pueblo traditions and breastfeeding. I'm going to tell you about our journey, my journey with Indigenous Women Rising and how we came about to this project. So next slide. And just another introduction for myself. My name is Malia Luarqui. I'm from the Pueblos of Laguna and Zuni, and I'm also a descendant of the Maidu tribe in California. And I'm also Black. And I'm a co-founder for Indigenous Women Rising. I'm the birth and breastfeeding justice advocate. So next slide. So just to give you guys a little bit of an overview of how Indigenous Women Rising started. It started in 2014 by my sister-in-law, Rachel, as a campaign to bring attention to the fact that Indigenous women and people who relied on Indian health services for healthcare were being denied access to Plan B. a form of contraception. This was a huge issue, considering the high rates of domestic violence and sexual assaults on reservations and the limited capabilities of tribes to prosecute non-native offenders. And after a few years of strategizing and articulating ways to intertwine political experiences that Rachel had to see equity and access to necessary healthcare was always a huge thing, especially because most of her family members and friends and community members rely on IHS for healthcare. And so I also helped her try to figure out ways to bring art in all its forms, research, policy, politics, and community organizing together to bring visibility to communities and families of color. And I myself joined officially in 2017 when Rachel was actually asked for help with this particular project. It was kind of funny because when she asked me, she was like, well, it's breastfeeding, doing advocacy work and all this type of stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'll help you. I've never breastfed in my life. I don't have kids, but I'm pretty sure I could do it. So I was like, okay, let's do this. And at first I thought, well, I'm just gonna sit here and take notes and not do very much, but I was heavily involved. I was very hands-on. It was new to me because I had never, like I said, I'd never breastfed in my life. I don't have kids, and I didn't know very much about breastfeeding. Just mostly that's how a mother fed her baby and that's how a baby ate. Nothing behind the scenes, I guess, if you will. And so as I became more interested in this project, the more that the advocacy of both breastfeeding and birth justice just became a part of what I do now. It's a part of my daily life. And now, as a collective, we're trying to declare our status as a 501c3. And we now consist of not just 3 people, but of 6. Myself, Rachel Lorenzo, who runs the abortion fund. We provide care for Indigenous people all throughout the US as well as Canada if they're seeking care in the States. We're also, my cousin Nicole is helping form a sex ed curriculum that is cultural sensitive, because we realize that especially on reservations or communities of color, most grandparents or aunts and uncles are raising their nieces and their nephews or their grandchildren. And, talking about sex with your grandma is kind of uncomfortable. So we're trying to figure out a way to make the conversation normal again, so it's not weird to sit at the table and talk to your grandson about what he needs to be aware of, or your granddaughter and what she needs to be aware of. And we also have our productions manager, Aubrey, who is also from Laguna, and Catherine, who is from New York, and she does all of our blogging. So, and then if you go to the next slide for me. Okay, so our community organizing philosophy. So our philosophy is centering those that are the most impacted by the work. So what we did with our project in particular is we went out to our community, and every year, the Pueblos in New Mexico, we have annual feast days. So, and what those are is when the Spaniards came and invaded our lands, they brought their religion with them, and they brought their saints. So they built churches on our lands, and they put the saint there, they did regular mass and everything, and they got our people to be involved in it as well. And so now every year we hold a celebration for these saints, but we also put a twist on it. So it's not just for these saints and all the colonization that happened, but we also celebrate family, community, friends. We invite people from all over. We cook food, we have vendors, food vendors, jewelry, traditional clothing, and everyone just has a really good time. And so we decided with this project, how do we get our community involved without, being rude about it, without, stepping on any toes. So we decided, let's have a stand at one of the feasts and let's tell them about what we're doing. Let's see if they have the same interests in what we're doing. And we also realized that our people tend to be more receptive to information when one of their own is giving the information, rather than a white man coming from Albuquerque wherever, a white man coming from wherever to our community and telling us what we need when we already know what we need. And we realize that it's, like I said, it's a lot more receptive when I can hear from my own people saying, well, we have an issue here. Let's figure out how to fix it. Let's find the tools. Let's get the necessities that we need to find a solution to this issue that we're having. And so far, every issue that we've had, and with that approach, we've come to a solution, or at least going toward a solution. So we found that it works very well in our community as well as other Indigenous communities. Because for so long, we've always had some white man or white person come to our people and tell us how we need all this help and we need all this stuff, but we never really do it because what do they know, right? What do they know about my people that I don't already know? And so we took it upon ourselves to go find the tools and the necessities that we needed to give to our people so that we could help ourselves. So we don't have to depend on that white man to come out and see us. We did it ourselves. And so by doing it that way and involving our community, we were able to help build them up and help figure out which gaps needed to be filled. And during our feast, when we presented our projects, they were all ecstatic. And it was nice to see people giving us their feedback. It was nice to see people being engaged in our work and finding interest in what we're doing. And at the end of it, it was nice to see, it was nice to give the people what they asked for. It was nice to see women so excited about the project that we were doing. It was nice to see new moms, already moms of 5 kids, grandparents, aunts, even uncles of some, brothers. And it was nice to see everyone so happy that we were finding a solution, or even just, bringing back up something that had already been started. Because I'm pretty sure long before we even started this, there was probably multiple grandmothers or aunts and moms who already made breastfeeding dresses. They just didn't make it known to the community. And by us being able to make it known to our community and other Indigenous communities, it was very, very, very exciting. Okay, so if you go to the next slide. Okay, so the first steps to this whole project. Rachel is a mother of 2, and she breastfed both my niece and my nephew. And she has always, always been a huge advocate for breastfeeding families. And so she had already done some advocacy for breastfeeding before this project even came about. And so the New Mexico Breastfeeding Task Force got in contact with her, and they let her know of this project that was going on with the MIT Media Lab and Emerson College to be a part of the hackathon. Just really being told that they previously had a hackathon, and with this hackathon, the upcoming one, they really wanted to have more of a diverse audience, because they realized that their first hackathon was mostly white people. and they really, really wanted to incorporate all kinds of people. And so, they got in contact with the breastfeeding task force, and they thought of Rachel. So, and Rachel, she really was like, okay, like, let's do it, but what are we gonna do, really? It was kind of just like, well, how, what are we really gonna showcase, What are we gonna do at this hackathon, at this elite place, and talk about breastfeeding, or what are we gonna present? And so it took some brainstorming, but that's when we finally came upon the dresses to be redesigned for to be breastfeeding friendly. And so we went to meeting in Boston for the initial meeting to plan the hackathon. We were a little hesitant, we weren't really expecting what was going to happen. We just didn't know. We were just kind of excited to be in a new place at a new time. Our team consisted of 4 people: myself, Rachel, Maria Jones, and Monica Respasa. And so we were all really excited because it was new. It was new for all of us. And initially, I just went for the trip on the trip because I was just going to talk about the tradition of our people and how we came about and where we migrated from, and just kind of the history, not so much about breastfeeding, because like I said in the beginning, I didn't know anything about it. And so it was just kind of there for support, like I said. And so as we approached to the media lab, it was very intimidating, not only because it was a very, very elite place, but we were just little people from New Mexico. And I know for me and Rachel, we were just like, well, we're just two little old res girls. And so never did we ever think we were going to be at the MIT Media Lab. And so when we walked into the meeting, everyone was, quiet, stuck within their teams, and there was 3 teams there. My team, obviously from New Mexico, a team from Detroit, a team from Mississippi Tupelo, 4 teams, and a team there from Boston. And so, like I said, we kind of just all were kept in our groups because we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into just yet. And especially because we were all women of color. And so sitting there, waiting for the meeting to start, we had our people in charge, Catherine Dignazio and Becky Michelson. They all recognized their privilege, and they left it at the door, which was something that I had never experienced myself. And at first we were all a little hesitant to give them a chance, just because for so long people have said, oh, well, I recognize my privilege, I recognize this and I recognize that, but not actually walking the walk and talking the talk. And so at first we kind of just we're like, okay, well, this is nice, thank you for recognizing it and saying that you do. But it was kind of just like, well, we'll see. And they gave us activities to do. We all participated, but not fully, just because, like I said, we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. And being women of color, you just have to be careful. In the smallest, no matter how big the setting, you just have to be careful, because if you let your guard down for so much, you never know what's going to happen. And I know for myself, I was just kind of like, well, they said this, and I'll hold them to their word, or see if I'll be able to. And we were able to. We sat at the table. We were allowed to speak. We were allowed to give input. We were allowed to speak our minds, like I said. And, a lot of the times when women of color, or just women in general, are given a seat at the table, they aren't allowed to speak. They aren't allowed to say what's on their mind. They aren't allowed to do anything, and so that's when we knew, well, this is a safe space for us. We're able to do what we came here to do. And being in that room, I was amongst passionate women, passionate. I've never seen such passion in a woman about the work she does. And by the end of the day, of the first day, it was just like we were family. We all sat together, we all laughed together, we all cried together. And it was nice to just be in a space where we could all work together, where we could all just be women, be a person at that, and just work towards the same goal. It was so refreshing to know that there's still people out there who recognize their privilege, who are willing to leave it somewhere else and make the other people feel comfortable in their own skin, feel comfortable in their own work area. It was so refreshing. And I personally could not thank Catherine and Becky and the rest of the Boston team for making us feel welcomed in their home. And to this day, we still all stay in touch because we became a family after that. After that first day, we were all a family. And, it was so nice to say, well, I have a sister or a friend here in Detroit or Mississippi or Boston or wherever, because we were all there to do the same thing. We were all there to do the work together as one. And it was so nice to be able to do that. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so after presenting our ideas at the hackathon, everyone was very excited, and they were just like, oh my God, like I have never seen anything like this. And, at first we were just like, yay, like this is so cool that everyone's excited about it. But also we were like, well, they're only also really excited about it because at the time, Native Americans really weren't recognized as much as they are today. And I mean, we haven't gone anywhere, and we're not really going anywhere because this is our land and this is our home. And so, but because we weren't out, showcasing that we were here, it was like we really weren't. And so, and that's kind of how we thought about it, was like, well, they don't really recognize that there's natives everywhere. They don't really see because the person doesn't look native or they don't speak their language, but we're everywhere. And so, but at the same time, we were also really excited about doing this because it was like, cool, we're finally getting recognition. And it's like, okay, well, how do we go about doing this? Who is going to help us do this? So we needed to find some seamstresses, and finding seamstresses wasn't the hard part because in most families, somebody sews. And it just so happens that the two seamstresses that we chose are both my aunts. It was just finding seamstresses that would have the time, because most women, or just anybody, they all have families that they have to take care of. They have full-time jobs, they have kids. Not only do they have to take care of their kids, some have to take care of their grandparents or another loved one of some sort. And it's just, having the time to actually sit down and find the seamstresses to see if they have time, if they have the capacity to do so. And so we found two seamstresses, like I said, both my aunts. The first being Larissa Garcia. She is from the Pueblo of Acoma. And the second, Rhiannon Duma, and she is from the Pueblo of Laguna. And so we really wanted to make sure that we included not just our Pueblo, but also our sister Pueblo, Acoma, where Larissa is from. And just because they're part of our people, and like I said, our community organizing philosophy is being able to just build up people, women, and Indigenous people in general. And so we, her daughter, Shane, who is also part of this project, we thought she'd be the perfect candidate for it. And so it was nice to know that we had the support of another Pueblo, but also another mom and just another woman in general of the work that we're doing. Okay, and then you can go to the next slide. Okay, so Rachel actually went with Larissa and Rhiannon to the fabric stores, and she helped them figure out, what they what dresses or what fabrics, I'm sorry, to choose for the dresses, and they went over designs and just little things here and there, but she also gave them the creativity to do what they wanted and what they thought would be, what they would have wanted when they were breastfeeding during their journeys. And so we finally had prototypes. So 2 of them came from Larissa and the other 2 came from Rhiannon. As you see in the first picture in the orange dress, Shane, Larissa's daughter, she is wearing the first breastfeeding dress. And that dress was kind of like a pull up, pull down. So all she had to do was pull the top layer up and pull the bottom layer down, which would have she would have access to feeding her baby. The second dress, the purple one where Shane is feeding her daughter, it has clasps. So it opens. It's kind of like a crisscross and it opens. The third dress has a long zipper and it goes from the neck all the way down to the navel. So she was able to just, open her dress. And the last dress, the gray one, they designed to mimic a hospital gown. So it has clasps all along the shoulders. And so it was just easy for her to pull down. And so a little bit of history about our dresses. When the Spaniards came and invaded our lands, they decided that the way our women were dressed was indecent. We would show our shoulders, part of our legs were shown, maybe our calves about. And so coming from another country and the way they grew up was very, very different from our customs. And so, they were taught to be covered from the neck all the way down to the ankles. And that's how they, I guess, changed the way we dressed. So they redesigned our dresses and mimicked a nightgown. So if you Google and go into history around the 1600s, you'll see that the women's nightgown dresses are very, very similar to our dresses today. And so we were like, okay, let's do this. Let's do these dresses, but let's also make sure, let's make sure they work. So we had Shane try the dresses out, and she was able to participate in one of the ceremonies that we had going on. And so during that time, she was able to try all 4 and tell us what we needed to fix, what worked, what didn't, and so we were very, very grateful for her being a part of this project, because without her, oh my gosh, I don't know what we would have done. So next slide. Okay, so attending the actual hackathon. So that was so much fun. So being that prior to the actual hackathon happening, where we met all the girls at the meeting in November, we were all excited to see everyone again, just because we already knew. They proved to us, the women of hosting the hackathon, proved to us that we were in a safe space, we were welcome always, and we were family. So when we arrived to the hackathon in April, we were so excited. There was old faces, new friends, family. It was so nice. And it was super relaxing. It wasn't like a regular, conference, if you will. Just because, they want everyone to feel at home and welcomed. And and since like the first day, everyone was arriving at different times and people were coming in from all over the place. So the first day, it was kind of just like, dinner and meeting, capacity building, getting to know everyone who was all there. We did activities that involved having us to, connect with everyone. So we weren't stuck within our same, groups, and we weren't kept to ourselves. And so it was nice to see that all these people were all passionate about the same thing of some sort. And, doing the work that we do, or just any work in general, you hear a lot of talk about things getting done, things needing to be done. And it was so refreshing and nice to see that the work that we talked about doing was actually being done. It was nice to see that all the energy that we had put out into the world, and like it was being reciprocated. And it was so, I cannot put into words how amazing it was to just see the actual work being done right before our eyes. People coming up with solutions to problems, people, presenting their issues and having other people from someone else come with a solution. It was so nice to just be in a space of such warmth and intelligence. Everyone there was so smart, and I was just like, what the heck? And like, here I am, just from this wonderful little old village in New Mexico that people really don't even know about. Like, and I was there, to be a part of this project. And so if you could go to the next slide. Okay. And so while we were there, we realized that we had to rehack one of our hacks. So the orange dress that Shane had on in previous pictures, she had the one she had to lift up and lift down. She had a really hard time feeding in, just because when she became engorged, it was a little tight on her chest, because all our dresses are cotton. So when she became engorged, it was kind of hard for her to pull up. So we were like, okay, let's figure out how we're gonna fix this, because we can't have her taking off the dress and having lines all over. So we were like, okay. So while we were at the hackathon, we had to rehack our hack. And like I said, there was people from all over there. And since we didn't have our seamstresses with us, we were like, okay, let's figure out who knows how to sew, because I, for one, at the time could not sew to save my life. Getting a little bit better now, but and so Rachel didn't know how to work a sewing machine, and the other two, Monica and Maria, they knew the gist, but they just were like, I'm not sure I should do this. So we had somebody else from who attended the hackathon be a part of it, and she was able to help us. And she was like, okay, well, I can do this, but my grandmother's probably going to yell at me because my stitches are not going to be straight, which was fine, because we just needed a prototype. And what we ended up doing was making two pieces instead. So rather than just having one whole dress, it was a two-piece dress. And so we had an underdress where it was just a cutoff, it was like a tank dress, but on the chest area, it was a jersey material. So it was going to be easier for her to pull down the dress and to feed on either side. And over that dress was a wrap shirt, so just like a little wrap shirt that she could tie on top of it. And so if she was participating in any ceremonies, she wouldn't have to undress. And so that was kind of the whole motive for doing this project was because my family, our family, me and Rachel's families, are very traditional. And any ceremony, you know, that's going on within our community, we try to attend and we try to be a part of it. And while Rachel was breastfeeding, she wasn't able to, just because she wanted to be fully dressed in our traditional regalia. She wanted to be a part of what was going on, but having to take off everything and then redress herself after she fed is a hassle. And our dresses, it's not just one dress. There's layers to our dresses, and it takes a while to, you know, dress yourself. It takes time, especially if you have other kids. And when these different ceremonies are going on, most of the time there's other people coming to your house. There's food you have to prepare. There's long days. And so you really have to, you know, take time to dress yourself and then your kids and then prepare food and then attend your guests. And so, you know, it was really hard for her to just be dressed in our traditional clothing because, like I said, she would just have to take it all off because they were not breastfeeding friendly at all. And so with this hack, we really, really, you know, prayed that it would go the way we hoped it would, and it really did. And so while we were there at the hackathon, we won the Healthy Community Awards, the Community Impact Award, which resulted in us getting consulting hours of figuring out our status as a collective, as a business, as a 501c3 from the Kellogg Foundation. And I can't speak for my teammates, but speaking from my experience and being a part of the hackathon, it was one of the most amazing things I had ever been a part of. It was nice to see other people from all over, you know, all over the world be a part of this, to recognize that our women and our children are very sacred, and them taking an interest to it was very refreshing. And it was also nice to be able to be a part of it because, like I said, I'm just this girl from the res, you know, that grew up wanting to be the best at doing whatever I was meant to be at doing. And being able to take this award home and do this work and show other girls from my same village or my same Pueblo or even other Pueblos or Indigenous communities that we are able to do this work. Just because that man or that white person or whoever they are said that we can't do it because of where we come from, do not listen to them. Because I know I don't look Native. The only reason why people recognize me as Native is because I grew up on the reservation. And stepping out into the city, people don't realize that I'm Native. I have curly hair. I have big lips. I am very, you know, I don't look Native at all. I look more Black. And so people would tell me all the time, you know, you're just going to be this and you're just going to be that. And I decided that I wasn't going to just be that. And being able to show these other little girls and just girls in general, women at home in general, that we can do it. Regardless, we can do it, and the work will be done by us, for us. And it was just, it's so nice to be able to go home and show these girls that it can be done. It is probably one of the most rewarding things ever. And I am so very grateful for this experience to be able to show our girls that we can do that. And so the next slide. Okay, so the aftermath. While we were at the hackathon, like I said, there was people from all over the place. Catherine Dignazio was approached with, I'm assuming some work from the Allied Media Conference in Detroit, Michigan, and they asked her to be or to have a session at this conference. And what this conference is just, from what I understand, is a people from all over the place, all as anywhere you can think of, they were all there. They speak about their journeys and, you know, just the things they have interests in. So there was storytelling, there's innovative workshops, there was everything you could think of, it was there. And so they asked her to be a part of this. And so we had also received a lot of media attention. You know, people were starting to see the hacks that we had come up with, or that our team had come up with, and it was nice to see that everyone was excited about it, not just our own communities, but people from all over the world and different Indigenous communities. And so they asked us to be a part of this discussion at the AMC conference. And we went and, you know, talked about the experience that we had. I went and talked about the experience we had, but we also realized that our only issue isn't breastfeeding, you know, and having the support and normalizing it again. It was also families, you know, being able to give the support, paid time leave for parents, having the financial capacity to have another child, to support the one they had or the ones they have. And we could seek support elsewhere and, you know, look to somebody else, but we, like I said, we really think that the only way to help our people is by us helping our people, our own people helping our people. And so being a part of the media conference, we were able to get input from all over the place and, you know, hear different stories about different journeys. And then a couple days later, we were able to go and speak to, we went to DC, and I was able to speak to my senator's office representatives. And so talking about the support that people need here in New Mexico, people need everywhere, actually, for that matter. And so, because I know, like I said, on my reservation, a lot of the times families are raising families. And so it's mom has her own 3 kids, but also raises her 3 other nephews and her niece, and is taking care of her mom and her dad and her husband. And, you know, so she can't take time off. Her husband can't take time off. Both her parents can't work. So if she were to have another baby, where would she find the support? Would she be able to stay home? Would she be able to, you know, provide? And would she be able to breastfeed? Because, you know, she's trying to take care of all these people as well as feed her baby. And, you know, sometimes, you know, at the time when she's looking for support, maybe from her mother isn't well, maybe her father isn't well, and she's taking care of them. And because they have such a big family, you know, her husband has to work. He can't take time off. And they have mouths to feed, not only their own, but, you know, others as well. And the way my community is, and I'm pretty sure most Pueblos are, is, you know, everyone is family. You know, whether you're first cousin, second cousin, whatever, if we came from the same bloodline, we're just as close as, you know, my mom's sister having you. And, you know, we're a very, very tight knit community. And I know for myself and my family in general, we try to help as best as we can, you know, with anything. And when I went to DC, I really tried to emphasize that we need paid time leave. We need the support of not just, you know, families, but also our representatives. I needed them to realize that, you know, breastfeeding doesn't just involve a mom. it's just like raising kids. It just doesn't involve one parent. Sometimes that's the way it goes, but if we have the capacity to involve more support, if we have the ability to enforce change in how children should be raised, then let's do it. Let's do it. And I know that, and like I said, in my community, if they have to go back to work, most women go back to work within a couple days of giving birth, depending on the procedure. Just because, like I said, they don't have the capacity to stay home. They don't have the financial needs to stay home. They have to work. And, really emphasizing that something needs to be done was a very big thing for us. And, they listened, and they can only do so much. But, praying that with our new Congresswoman, Deborah Holland, who is also from Laguna, who's such a sweetheart, with her, going into office, I pray that she, and I'm sure I know she will enforce change, because like her, she was a single mother, and like most of our mothers on the reservation. And so with that, we really tried to bring all this attention to our work so something can be done. And I pray that something does. So if you go to the next slide. So while I was at the AMC conference, we were about to get started, and I was preparing my notes and sat down to get ready for the discussion about to be had, and I had my chai tea next to me. What do? I spill my tea all over the floor. I was like, okay, well, now everyone knows that I'm here. So I was like, great, this is wonderful. This is a great start to the discussion. So it was really funny, because I was like, well, no, I can't be embarrassed of anything I say, because I already embarrassed myself. So we got right into the discussion, talking about the hackathon, and just how we approached it, and how the different teams came to the table, and what we were expecting, what we weren't expecting, and just kind of talked about our overall experience. And while we were giving our presentation and everything, at the end, a few members of the Kellogg Foundation had attended, and I did not know. I was like mortified. I was great. They saw me spill my tea all over the floor, and now they want to talk to me. I was like, okay, let's pretend that never happened. So, we were able to talk to them, Olivia Lewis and Javon Dobbs, about, the project that we had been doing. And, when I had gotten home, maybe a week or two later after being in Detroit and DC, Olivia reached out to me and said she wanted to write an article about the project that we were doing, and the thing about, the stigma of breastfeeding in Indigenous communities. And so we did that. She wrote an article. We were super excited about it. And, maybe like a couple of days later, she was like, well, my boss is really, interested in what you guys are doing and would like to do a videography project. And I was like, what? So I was like, sure, like, let's do this. Let's get to work on this. And that project was so much fun. I had never ever done anything like this. It was my first time, organizing people to come in, finding people to be a part of this project, getting in contact with different people, and doing the work. And so finding the girls to be a part of this project like I said, it was really hard. And like I said, finding people to actually do the work, to see if they have the time capacity to do it, was a little hard. But I am so thankful that I was able to find mothers and, families willing to be a part of it. And so from the women that I found to be a part of it, where it was Shayla Lorenzo, she's from Laguna, Alyssa Seymour, who's also from Laguna, Sharon Vile, she's from Acoma, Pueblo, and Shane Garcia, who's also from Acoma, and then a few other women here and there, Bianca Seiss, my aunt, who also gave input about breastfeeding, you know, and all the different things that she went through during her journey. And so I had a wide, you know, range of women and different ages. The youngest being Shyla, she's 17. And we really wanted to uplift her, as well as our other mothers who already had kids and who had already done this before. Because, you know, all over the world, people talk about teen pregnancy like it's the worst. And the way we look at it is it's going to happen, you know. We shouldn't shame these girls. We shouldn't do teen pregnancy prevention because it's going to happen, you know. And maybe at the time, maybe people think that's not the best time for kids to have kids, basically. But you know, if we give them the tools and the support and the care they need, they will be successful. And that's what we really want to show. And with Shyla, she is such a smart girl. She is so sweet, and her son is so cute. And so we really wanted to help uplift her also. Just, you know, she's going to be graduating high school soon, and let her know that not just in her immediate circle of her parents and, you know, her brother of support, but, you know, the support comes out even further. It comes out into the community, you know, and I support her. I support her in everything she does, and I know Rachel does as well. And being able to, you know, show her that, you know, just because she had her son at a young age, that she is still capable of doing things. She is still capable of being the best she can possibly be, doing whatever she wants to do. And so we knew with that project, that's what we wanted to do, but also, you know, recognize mothers who had children later in age or who had surprise babies, you know. And so, you know, just like I said, recognizing the support for all our women. So next page. Okay, so this is going to be the video, so of the final product. So if you want to show that. We attended the Make the Breast Pump Not Suck Hackathon in Boston at the MIT Media Lab, and we also collaborated with the Emerson College. While we were there, we won the Community Impact Award from the Kellogg Foundation. With this project, we were like, oh, well, how do we make a change without being disrespectful? Because for so many years, our people have always done the same thing the same way. Our traditions are solely around women and babies, so our well-being is very, very secret. And so we were like, how do we make this project about us again? So we came up with the idea to do the dresses.
I love that these dresses just allow me to feed my baby right where I am and still feel like I'm a part of what's going on and not withdrawn from my family and the ceremony that's happening.
It's refreshing to know that we have young girls who are supporting breastfeeding. They're doing it and they want others to do it. They want to assure that it's passed on.
We're trying to figure out a way how to get people within those different pueblos interested in our work, so that way when there's women that need to breastfeed and need to participate in their traditional doings, that they'll have a way to still participate as well as feed their child.
As mothers, you know, it's completely taught to us, and the moment you hold your child, you want everything in the world for your baby. You want the complete best for them. I know my mom did that for me, even in the struggles she faced in her breastfeeding journey and in formula feeding me and my sisters. That couldn't have been easy for her. And I idolize her even more for making the decision to do what was best for us.
For the longest time, we've lost the history of what our bodies were meant to do. Our bodies were meant to nourish our children beyond birth.
The best start a baby can have is breast milk. Breastfeeding has been shown to decrease obesity rates in kids, diabetes rates in kids. It decreases breast cancer rates in moms. There's no bad thing about breastfeeding. It's just like, it's an incredible, amazing thing.
With our culture, they say that when the mother breastfeeds, she gives her the baby the knowledge and then also the culture through her breast milk. Because of breastfeeding, we survived. It's the lineage of breastfeeding. A lot of our mothers, their grandmothers breastfed, and then their mothers breastfed. And then somewhere in there, it was interrupted, maybe because of work or, just didn't have the support.
The breast is so sexualized that it's kind of seen as inappropriate when it's like, no, like, how do you think we've survived this long? We didn't, always have formula. We didn't always have bottles. How do you think we've come this far? It's because of your mother's breastfeeding you, and it's almost like I would want to say like tradition.
A long time ago, I highly doubt they worried about covering up or secluding themselves to feed their children, and I don't think we should have to now in any Pueblo. I would hope that especially every Indigenous community, allows open and public breastfeeding. I think in that way we'll heal one another, we'll remove stigmas from our communities, we'll empower one another, and just build a community where it's once again okay to do what is best for your child, always.
So that was our video and the final product of the Kellogg Foundation project that I was able to do with them. And it was such a journey. Like I said, I had never, ever done anything like that before. And being able to, uplift these women from my community, but also other communities, was lots of fun. It was so much fun. And, at the end of the day, it was nice to know that, nice to be able to let these girls know that they have our support and whatever they decide to do and however they decide to feed their babies. And, just to be present, be in positive energy, loving energy. And it was so nice to be able to have done this project. So I just want to thank everyone for attending my webinar. It was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate this project, this opportunity, I'm sorry. And if you want to continue following us and the work that we do, we have all social media. You can follow us on Facebook at Indigenous Women Rising, as well as Instagram with the same handle, and on Twitter at IWR Rising. So, and then that is it.
Wow, congratulations for all your wonderful achievements, Malia. That's so amazing. Thank you again, Malia, for such an empowering and motivational webinar and for the amazing work you do in your communities. And that brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you all for tuning in and for all you do to improve the lives of women, children, and families. Goodbye for now, and I look forward to having you all for our next webinar session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.